A homeless boy was caught hiding in a school classroom. The teacher was ready to call the police. But when she saw what he had written in his notebook, her hands started shaking. What this 9-year-old orphan had taught himself on the streets was about to change everything. The words on that page would make a grown woman cry and turn this school upside down forever. The harsh morning wind whistled through the gaps in the abandoned construction site that 9-year-old Malik called home. Rubble and cement chunks lay scattered across the concrete floor like discarded puzzle pieces. But the young black boy never complained. At least here, the rain couldn't soak him through. Malik wrapped his deceased mother's threadbare shawl around his thin shoulders, the sole memento she had left him when pneumonia claimed her life 18 months ago. His dark skin bore the ashy marks of countless cold nights, his oversized clothes hanging loose on his undernourished frame. While other children his age prepared for another school day in warm homes with breakfast on the table, Malik reached toward the corner of his makeshift bed where he concealed his greatest treasure. Hidden beneath a loose concrete block was his collection of salvaged books and notebooks. Half a roll, hard as stone, wrapped in torn newspaper, sat beside his books. He had salvaged it from behind Murphy's bakery, where the night manager sometimes left day-old bread for anyone who needed it. Malik's empty stomach cramped as he peeled away the newspaper, breaking off tiny pieces and chewing slowly. 18 months of street survival had taught him to make every morsel last. Golden sunbeams crept across the grimy floor as Malik performed his daily greeting, "Morning, Mama. Today I'm going to learn about fractions." Then quiet descended. Thoughts of her still pierced his heart. He could still hear her voice saying, "Malik, baby, you eat now. Mama's not hungry today, okay?" He had trusted her completely, never knowing she was starving herself so he could survive. Before she died, his mother had taught him to read using old magazines and newspapers she brought home from her cleaning jobs. Letters make words, words make sentences, sentences make stories, she would say patiently. Education is your way out of this life, baby. Promise me you'll keep learning no matter what happens. Everything shattered when Malik turned 8. His mother had been sick for weeks with a persistent cough and fever. At the free clinic, the overworked doctor said curtly, "Pneumonia. She needs antibiotics, rest, and proper nutrition. Without treatment, this could be fatal." But they had no money for medicine. Malik watched helplessly as his mother grew weaker each day until one morning she simply didn't wake up. After her death, distant relatives briefly took him in, but when they realized he came with no money or benefits, they put him back on the streets. Social services were overwhelmed, and one small boy easily slipped through the cracks. For 18 months, Malik had survived on his wits. He knew which churches served free meals, which shop owners might give him small jobs for coins, and which shelters had space when weather turned dangerous. More importantly, he continued the education his mother started. Using the reading skills she taught him, he slowly worked through discarded textbooks and newspapers. Progress was slow, but over time, simple addition became multiplication, basic sentences became paragraph comprehension. That morning, Malik made his way toward Riverside Elementary School, a routine he had developed over 6 months. The school sat in a better neighborhood where children arrived in clean uniforms and teachers seemed patient and kind. He usually slipped through a gap in the back fence, but today construction workers were repairing that section. Circling the school perimeter, he spotted an open window in what appeared to be an unused classroom. After ensuring no one was watching, he carefully climbed through. Inside, he found an old classroom that smelled of dust and disuse. Broken desks were stacked against walls, and sunlight streamed through dirty windows. From here, he could listen to lessons from adjacent classrooms through thin walls. As he settled into his hiding spot, he heard voices from the next room. A teacher was explaining fractions to students around his age. Malik pulled out one of his notebooks and began taking notes, drawing diagrams he imagined the teacher was making on the blackboard. But as he wrote, he heard a soft sound behind him. Turning, he saw a girl about his age sitting on one of the broken desks. She wore the school's clean uniform and had obviously entered through the same window. "Who are you?" she asked quietly, seeming curious rather than frightened. "My name is Malik," he said softly. "I come here to listen to the lessons. I promise I'm not doing anything wrong." The girl studied his worn clothes and the notebook in his hands. "You're not a student here, are you?" He shook his head. "I can't afford school. But I love to learn, so I come here to listen through the walls." "My name is Isabella," she said, sliding down from the desk. "I came in here because I was having trouble with my math homework. Maybe you could help me. You seem to know about fractions." Malik looked at her homework sheet. The problems were similar to ones he had worked through in discarded textbooks. "I think I can help," he said carefully. As they worked together, Isabella was amazed by Malik's knowledge. Despite gaps in his education, his determination had given him solid foundations in many subjects. "How did you learn all this without going to school?" she asked. "Very slowly," Malik admitted. "I find old textbooks in trash and study under streetlights every night. Sometimes I get things wrong because I don't have a teacher to ask questions." Isabella looked thoughtful. "What if I could bring you some of my old textbooks? Everyone deserves to learn." Their conversation was interrupted by footsteps in the hallway. Both children froze as the steps grew closer. Mrs. Rodriguez, one of the school's teachers, appeared in the doorway. Her eyes immediately focused on Malik, taking in his shabby clothes and obvious status as an outsider. "What is going on here?" she demanded. "Young man, you clearly don't belong in this school. Isabella, what are you doing with this boy?" Isabella stood up quickly. "Mrs. Rodriguez, this is my friend Malik. He was helping me with my math homework." "Helping you?" Mrs. Rodriguez looked skeptical. "This child shouldn't be on school property. I'm taking him to the principal's office immediately." But as Mrs. Rodriguez moved toward Malik, her eyes fell on the open notebook beside him. What she saw there made her stop mid-stride. Page after page of neat handwriting, mathematical equations worked out in careful detail, essay paragraphs with sophisticated vocabulary. "Did you write this?" she asked Malik, her voice softening with surprise. Malik nodded nervously. "I practice every night under streetlights. I find old textbooks in trash and try to learn from them." Mrs. Rodriguez picked up the notebook, flipping through pages of self-taught lessons. There were grammar exercises, science notes copied from overheard lessons, even a short essay about the importance of education that brought tears to her eyes. The essay, written in Malik's careful handwriting, read, "My mother told me that education is the one thing nobody can take away from you. Even if you lose your house and your money and even your family, what you learn stays with you forever." She said poor people stay poor because they don't know things that rich people know. But if you can learn those things, you can change your whole life. Isabella, Mrs. Rodriguez said quietly, please go back to your regular classroom. I need to speak with Malik privately. After Isabella left, Mrs. Rodriguez sat down on one of the broken desks. How long have you been teaching yourself like this? Since my mother died 18 months ago, Malik said quietly. She made me promise to keep learning no matter what happened. And you've been coming to our school to listen to lessons? Malik nodded, expecting punishment. I'm sorry for trespassing. I just wanted to hear real teachers explain things. Mrs. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Malik, what you've accomplished on your own is extraordinary. But you shouldn't have to learn this way. Let me talk to our principal and see what we can do. 3 hours later, Malik found himself in Principal Harrison's office, not as a trespasser but as a potential student. Mrs. Rodriguez had shown the principal Malik's notebook and explained his situation. We have a scholarship program for exceptional students in need, Principal Harrison explained. It covers tuition, uniforms, books, and meal vouchers. But you would need to take placement tests to determine appropriate grade level. Malik's hands shook as he held the test papers 2 days later. Everything he had taught himself was about to be tested. As he worked through problems, years of self-taught knowledge came flooding back. Some questions stumped him completely, showing gaps in his education. But other sections he completed with confidence. The results surprised everyone. Despite gaps in some areas, Malik's intelligence and dedication had brought him to grade level in most subjects. His reading comprehension scored particularly high, and his essay writing showed remarkable maturity. 2 weeks later, Malik walked through the front gates of Riverside Elementary School wearing a brand new uniform. The crisp white shirt and navy blue pants felt strange after months of oversized clothes. Isabella was waiting at the entrance with a huge smile. Welcome to school, Malik. I saved you a seat next to me in math class. Mrs. Rodriguez became his unofficial mentor, helping him catch up where needed. The other teachers, learning his story, went out of their way to encourage his learning. His enthusiasm was infectious. Several teachers said having Malik reminded them why they became educators. Adjusting wasn't easy. Malik struggled with social aspects of being around children all day. Simple things like raising his hand or participating in groups felt foreign. He also felt anxiety about food that came from months of uncertainty about meals. The most meaningful moment came during his first parent-teacher conference. Since he had no guardian, Mrs. Rodriguez attended as his advocate. As she shared reports of his progress with Principal Harrison and teachers, Malik felt something he hadn't experienced since his mother died. He belonged somewhere. People cared about his success. That evening, walking to his new placement in a group home arranged by the school's social worker, Malik stopped at the old construction site one last time. Looking up at the darkening sky, he whispered, I kept my promise, Mama. I never stopped learning. 6 months later, Malik was thriving academically and had become inspiration for classmates and teachers. Working with Mrs. Rodriguez and Principal Harrison, he began visiting homeless shelters to find other children who were out of school. Every Saturday, he met with these children in the community center basement, teaching them basic reading and math using techniques he had used to teach himself. You don't need fancy schools to start learning, he would tell the children gathered around him. You need books, you need light, and you need to believe that you deserve better. 1 year after hiding in that abandoned classroom, Malik stood at the front of his 4th grade class, presenting a project about homelessness and education. His presentation included interviews with children he tutored, statistics about homeless students, and proposals for how schools could better help children slipping through cracks. The boy who once listened to lessons through classroom walls was now standing confidently before his peers, proving that sometimes the greatest teachers are those who understand what it truly means to hunger for knowledge. His journey from streets to classroom showed that education was indeed the most powerful weapon against poverty, and now he was teaching others to wield that same weapon.